I am really. Oh, I should probably. I'm not present right now. Joshcast. That's what this. This is a podcast. That's what this is. And I was not present. I was ahead of myself when I said oh. I wasn't really thinking oh. I had thought oh before, and I said to myself I should say oh to make it appear as if in the moment I was thinking oh. So not in the moment I was. So I'm trying to be more in the moment now, feeling tremendous guilt as I say that, because I was just listening to Mark Maron's podcast, and he was talking about the importance of being in the moment, and now I'm afraid that people are going to be like, well, you're just taking from Mark Maron now. Okay. Trying to figure out what to do with the podcast. And basically what I'm thinking is because here's my concern, friends. Romans, countrymen, two people listening to this. Here's my problem. I want the podcast to be funny. But I also notice that the people who are vulnerable, both in stand-up and even in the podcasts, who reveal, that seems to help them gain followers. Now, the problem here is that if I'm vulnerable, but that's the reason why I am vulnerable, then I'm doing this for an ulterior motive. But then my question is, if I come right out and tell you I'm trying to be vulnerable because I want your money, I want you to pay me to talk at you. Give me your money. I'm not sure that's productive. That reminds me, Jim Carrey had a punchline with the word counterproductive. And so now my brain is like, oh God, if I say productive, is it too close to that Jim Carrey punchline that has a totally different setup? This is my brain. This is how I live every day. If you want to glean some insight into that. Anyway, my thinking is, I understand that vulnerability is important, but at the same time, when I listen to other podcasts and when I listen to comedy podcasts, I think to myself, this isn't funny. So how do I find the balance? So then my thought was, well, what if I kind of take a little bit from Maron, and I maybe start the beginning of the podcast with, hey, how am I doing? This is what's going on in my life. And then, whereas Maron will transition into an interview with, like, the President of the United States that is groundbreaking and really establishes him as a preeminent broadcaster, I will do some sketch comedy where I play all the characters and make it up kind of as I'm recording it. I feel strongly about this plan. It's like I'm taking from the best of both worlds. Oh, God. All right. One thing I do want to talk about, though, speaking of vulnerability, I want to talk about depression. I was diagnosed with depression in middle school, and I went to the psychologist, and the reason I went was because the year before, my mom had almost died, and she'd almost died of alcoholism. And when am I famous yet? Is that vulnerable enough? Right. So when we were talking about it, and there was friction between us, and I think I told her at one point, like I was writing stories, and I said, it's too painful for me to write about what happened to you. And so based off of that, she said, I think you need to see a psychologist. So I went to a psychologist. He interviewed me for an hour with my mom. And at the end of it, he said, I'm writing down somewhere, I think for insurance purposes, the reason of why I'm going to the psychologist. He wrote down minor depression. And he said I think they wanted to call it minor depression because they wanted to make sure that if I don't know, a company or another insurance company was looking at this, that they wouldn't charge me more because it was minor depression instead of major depression or clinical depression. Or, I guess standard depression, is that the term? I don't know. I don't know. How do you define minor depression? Well, he's depressed, but he did not throw himself off a building. Ergo, minor depression. So, I don't know exactly. I don't know what that diagnosis, and I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly, and I don't know also if it was, because I've read about how sometimes, depression can be temporary. You lose a loved one and you go through a period of depression, or depression can be chronic. I don't feel like. Well, here's the interesting question. I used to think that I was not the kind of person who had major depression where, I don't even know why, but I'm depressed today and I can't get out of bed. I always assumed that the kind of depression I had was based on circumstances. So I didn't get into advanced acting in high school and I was depressed. Ergo, I wasn't one of those major clinically depressed people. But now I'm starting to question that because, for instance, I just mentioned, I didn't get into advanced acting in high school and I was depressed. Yeah, that's true. I was depressed about that for, I'm still depressed about it. I'll be honest. That still hangs over my head. Other people want to go back in time and kill Hitler. I want to go back in time and work on those monologues. But I was strongly depressed about it for about a year, 2 years, and it was. And the other thing, the other major discovery is that I was, before this pandemic, I was very depressed, and my cousin killed himself last year, and that I was depressed about that and sad, and there was grief. But before that, I was, the depression has been a lot more chronic than I realize. And I keep thinking, it's because I'm not where I want to be in my career. But basically, I keep coming up with a reason why, this is why I'm depressed. That's why I'm depressed. This is why I'm depressed. That's why I'm depressed. And it's kind of gotten to the point where I'm just depressed. It's just, maybe this is a chronic thing. Maybe this isn't so minor. And I want to talk about this because I want maybe what I want to do. Maybe if I can help someone else not be depressed for a minute, that's a win, right? That felt very Marin to me, what I just said right there. This whole thing feels very Marin to me. So that's where I'm at with that. I think I've arrived at this before, but the big realization was, there's been these titanic shifts, and in some ways I feel less depressed now. I think it's because everyone else around me is equally depressed, so it's like, now I'm the positive one, which that's how you know things are bad. But I want to talk about this. Just so that it's happening, and that maybe the theme of it, a lot of people want to say it gets better, and what I want to tell you is, don't worry, it's always going to be bad. That's not a good way to end this, but there you have it. That's a thought. These are thoughts. Okay, but I guess maybe if I share it, maybe somehow that helps by me sharing that. I feel odd talking about my mom this way because I feel like I'm, I don't want to, this isn't about me shitting on my mom. This is not about me blaming my mom. I love my mom. My mom did a great job. Frankly, I didn't realize there was a problem with the alcoholism until she almost died. So she managed it quite well. Or she didn't, and I'm an enabler. One of the two. It's one of the two. Or maybe it's both. Or you know what? Again, I'm treading... Taylor Tomlinson talks about this in her act, but no parents are perfect. And I would still, in spite of all their flaws, I would rather have mine than a lot of the other ones. Certainly anyone in Harry Potter who is not a parent, they were all terrible, except the Weasleys. Weasleys, good parents. All the other ones, awful. Well, the Potters were good until they got killed. You can't blame them for getting killed. Although, as my grandfather would say, you're looking for trouble, you're going to find it. But I don't know if that applies to the world of Harry Potter. All right, good. I like this. I like where we're headed with this. I'm beginning to, okay, this feels like something. I think I've talked about this in podcasts before. I don't think I've talked anything new. I think every podcast I do is the exact same podcast. Now that I mention it, it's just me dealing with depression in a different way. Today it's me talking about it literally, and next week it might be trying to do a Batwoman sketch. And either way, isn't it really the same thing? Someone is trying to fight the depression. Transition. So, I am doing a Harry Potter themed stand-up show at the end of the month at Flappers virtual show. You should check it out. I think the title is 110 Jokes About Harry Potter. Go to the website, flapperscomedy.com. Check it out. It'll be fun. And as a result, I do these shows because I want to work out my Harry Potter material. So what are my thoughts about Harry Potter? There is something, I almost use the word seductive, but that does not sound right when I'm about to describe Harry Potter. But I think it excites the part of us that wants to be special. Because it's this kid who everyone, he grows up in this terrible home environment, and it's the crux of it is, you're a wizard, Harry. You actually are special. And that's, isn't that what we all want? We want a giant British character actor to come into our house and say, hey, you're special. You're a wizard. And then they take us to a magical place where it's very easy for you to die, but it's still, it's still a magical place filled with British character actors and architecture from the Middle Ages. I don't think that that Harry Potter, part of the allure of Harry Potter, I think, is that when, in all the places Harry Potter goes in the magical world, it all looks like the Middle Ages still. It looks old-fashioned. Hogwarts is this giant castle. It would not be as effective as a narrative if Harry Potter went to my high school, if that was a school of magic. My high school was designed in the late 1970s. And I think the overall architectural creative impulses in the 1970s were as far away from the Gothic Middle Age Notre Dame Cathedral-style castles as you could get. I think when we were designing the high school I went to, one architect was looking at the plans and he was saying, "What is that, a circle? What are you doing? This should be squares. Square, 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 square. What is that?" "Oh, I think this part of the wall, it might be cool if that curves." "Curves? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright." No. We are making concrete slabs. In fact, I actually think that when they were designing my high school, I think the architect walked into the room, he looked down at the plans, he said, "This looks fantastic. You did a great job." And the other guy said, "That's not Those aren't the plans for the high school. Those are the plans for the prison. And the first architect was like, well, I think we can kill two birds with one stone here. Let's make that the high school. What's the difference? Bunch of little rooms, concrete. We're done. We can kill two birds with one stone. That high school, if they needed to convert that to a prison, it would be, I don't know, half a day. Just put the stall doors back on the bathrooms, you got yourself a prison. Or actually, maybe take the stall doors off the bathrooms, you got yourself a prison. That was the other thing, by the way. Half of the bathrooms in my high school, the men's bathrooms, had no stall doors. Am I the only one who went to school there who had IBS? How could they let that go? Why did they let that go? I think they were afraid that people were doing drug deals or crazy things were happening in the bathroom or something, that they took out the stall doors, or it took them forever to replace them. Why does it take you 6 months to replace a bathroom door? How hard is it to get a bathroom door? How can they afford beautiful football uniforms but not a bathroom door? Just take the old uniforms and stitch it together and at least give a cloth thing. Bathroom doors. I cannot tell you. Now, I'll tell you this. One time I didn't quite make it to the bathroom. I ended up pooping my pants. You know why? Because the first 3 bathrooms that I tried didn't have a stall door. That would not be a good school of magic. I mean, the first magic spell you'd have to learn is how to make a bathroom stall door appear. That's what all the first-year students would have to learn. And Voldemort confronts Harry Potter, and Harry Potter just keeps making stall doors, and Voldemort is like, what the hell is he doing? I can get around these doors. These are very thin doors. Different energy on this podcast. I like this podcast, but I think I got to start recording the podcast. I can't record the podcast while I'm driving. I don't think that's a safe thing to do. It's just not the same energy. I got to be standing, and I got to be able to pace and get really upset. Yeah. That wasn't even really a sketch, but it ended up being a complaint about my high school stall doors. That was never a problem in Harry Potter. He had stall doors. Private school. Yeah, my high school, I remember it was so, because the school colors were blue and green, as I recall, so they painted the rails, the rails were painted with blue paint, and it's like painting prison bars a color just to make it more festive. But it's like, no, we know where we are. We know this is a public school. That's not going to help. It also had that kind of carpet that is not really carpet. It may as well just be a cement floor. It's carpet where if you fall on that carpet and you're not wearing 3 layers of clothing, you're losing skin. You may as well be falling. You need to wear a motorcycle jacket just to survive falling on that carpet. I think the carpet in my elementary school's gym was carpeted. And I think in middle and high school, the gym then I think was a rubber floor, and that was better than the carpet. I don't know what kind of carpet that was. That industrial carpet that I'm pretty sure they could line the bottom of the space shuttle and it would be able to handle the re-entry beautifully. Well, I don't know. We're at 20 minutes. My podcast is usually 20 minutes. I think the goal was to try to go into sketch comedy, and it ended up just being kind of one rant to another. But that's all right. I mean, right? I mean, are there rules? Yeah. Okay. Well, Ooh, you know what? Let's try this. Let's see if anyone's listening. Let's see if anyone is listening. Give me your least favorite cartoon when you were growing up. Tweet that at Nerdy Virgin. Least favorite cartoon when you were growing up. And I will view that cartoon and I will have comments about it on the next podcast. I'm trying to do the podcast every Monday and Thursday because I want to be Mark Maron. And that's the end of the podcast.